Now that we've decided to use KendoReact for our application, let's take a look at what's available. If you go to telerik.com, under Products, you'll see Kendo UI and then UI for React. That'll take you to the KendoReact homepage. Then click on Docs and Demos in the nav bar. Here you'll see all the popular components right at the top. If you scroll down a bit, you'll see all the available components under the Components section. Under Styling, you'll see design kits for Figma, the theme builder, and icons. Under the Common Features section, you'll see how KendoReact integrates with a few of the modern building tools that are available. There's third-party integrations here for GraphQL, Material UI, Redux, and popular cloud integrations as well. And finally, under Project Setup, you'll see how to integrate this library into an existing workflow, whether you're using Create React App or you're using .NET Core, for example, and there's other options here as well. Let's look at the components that are available. The docs are very comprehensive, as you'll see, and if we click on the buttons here, you'll see all the available options for buttons that are part of the buttons package. It contains the button component, the button group component, drop-down button, split button, and the toolbar contains buttons and button groups, as well as a few other components. And that's just the buttons package alone. Every component package is going to have an overview page. This is the one for the buttons group. And then under that, every component has their own overview page. If you install the buttons package, you get all the components that are listed under that package. More on that in a moment. On the overview page of every component package, you'll see the basic usage information. Here you'll see examples of the components listed. And here you'll see buttons and button groups, drop-downs, split buttons, a toolbar. You'll also see the source code available right here in the View Source tab. This shows you how to implement the example. And in most demos, you'll get a drop-down to open the demo in a live environment, such as Code Sandbox or StackBlitz. Let's look at StackBlitz, for example. This is an online environment with functional demo and code that you can actually edit right here in your browser. Let's go back to buttons. If we head over to Getting Started, you'll see the installation instructions for this group of components and the list of dependencies that are required for these components, including the minimum version of React that is supported. For more complex components like Chart, there are quite a few more dependencies. Let's have a look at that. I'll click on the Charts component group, then Getting Started, and scroll down to the Dependencies section. Some of these dependencies will automatically be installed for you as well. This is because in Kendo, complex components are often built using smaller, simpler components. Alright, back under Buttons, you'll see the documentation is further broken down into each individual component. For example, under Button, you'll have an overview of the button component. You'll also have basic usage here and an example with the code. You'll see the events that are triggered, the different ways to style a button and render it, and you'll see similar instructions for every component in every component package that comes with KendoReact, including charts, data grid, dialogues, drop-downs, inputs, layouts, and so on. In this course, we're going to be using just a few of these to make our application really shine. But the workflow that we're going to be using is going to be essentially the same for any of the components that you decide to use in your own applications. In this lesson, we'll talk about the sample application in this course that we created using Vite. If you're not familiar with Vite, don't worry. We've only used it to scaffold out the app and to do our builds. That's all we'll be using it for. So what is Vite? Well, it's a lightweight tool and one of the best ways to get started quickly with a modern React app. It's much more streamlined and faster than older tools like Create React App. Tools like this exist to make the setup process much easier because setting up a JavaScript development environment used to be pretty tedious. Tools like Webpack required a lot of manual configuration, and Vite was created to fix that. It provides a faster, modern way to scaffold and run front-end projects, especially React apps, without all the complexity. Vite handles project setup and development server configuration with just a single command. And once you run that command, you've got a working React app in seconds. No waiting for a ton of dependencies to install or for slow startup times. In the Docs and Demo section of the Telerik UI website, where we were just looking at components, there's a Getting Started guide in the left navigation. While the documentation still mentions tools like Create React App, you can absolutely use Vite instead. And that's what we've done in the demos for this course. Note that you can still use Create React App and even Create KendoReact App, which is a convenience wrapper that already packages all the KendoReact components together with Create React App. The docs are still there for it, but newer tools like Vite, Astro, and others are growing in popularity and offer a faster, more modern development experience. While you don't need to do that for this course because it's already done for you, if you do want the experience of setting things up from scratch with Vite, you can just run this scaffolding command in the terminal. I'm just showing you how easy it is here. You do not need to follow along, but this is the exact process of how the RPS demo app was created. Choose the React template and you're off to the races. Then you'll install the KendoReact packages you need via npm. Remember, for the demo code used in this course, you won't need to do this yourself. The app was already created using this method and it's set up for you and ready to go. Once the app is set up, just run npm run dev to start a lightning-fast local dev server and start building. In the previous lesson, we talked about how Vite is a modern and much faster alternative to older scaffolding tools like Create React App. If you're planning to use KendoReact in a brand new project, there are actually a couple of great ways to get started, and one of them is to use the Kendo CLI, which makes it even easier to set up your environments with Kendo components. The Kendo CLI builds on top of the standard Vite setup, but instead of installing Vite yourself and manually configuring everything, you can run a single command that does it all for you. npx KendoReact create Vite my Kendo app. I know it's a mouthful, but you only have to do it once. This will create a brand new Vite-powered React app with KendoReact already configured and ready to go. It uses TypeScript by default and includes a sample component so you can start testing the library right away. To use that, you just need to install the Kendo CLI globally by using this command, npm install global progress Kendo CLI. Once that's installed, then you can run the npx KendoReact command, and then you have your My Kendo app project, which is already pre-configured with all the Kendo components and features. You can further control how your app is created by specifying a couple of flags. For example, what theme you want to start with, default, bootstrap, material, or fluent, or whether you want to use plain CSS or Sass for styling. This is what the full command would look like, and as you can see, it's very fast. Once your project is scaffolded and you go into the project directory, you can run npm install or npm I for short to get all the packages downloaded and installed. And once that's done, npm run dev to kick off the dev server, and you can browse to it directly and you'll see a new kind of demo application. This is the one that demonstrates the KendoReact components. In the demo code for this course, we already have a Vite-based project set up, so you don't need to go through this process yourself. But if you're starting from scratch, the Kendo CLI is a great way to get everything configured quickly. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that CLI installs a full set of KendoReact components and dependencies out of the box. That's perfect if you want to explore everything that's available, but in this course, we're taking a more focused approach, installing only the components we're actually using. So while the CLI approach is subtractive, you remove what you don't need, we'll be using an additive approach in this course. If you prefer not to use the Kendo CLI, you can always set up a default Vite project like I showed you in the previous lesson, and then you install the KendoReact packages you need based on your project requirements. For any KendoReact components, there's a simple process to install them. Let's see how to install and add a button component to our application. I've opened up the RPS Tracker React project, which is the one you just downloaded, and it's the starting point of our application. If I open the package.json file, you'll see the dependencies and the dev dependencies listed here. And you'll see that we don't have any KendoReact packages installed yet. Now I want to start using buttons. So let's head over to the documentation and see how we can do this. This is usually my starting point for installing components or looking up any properties or attributes or events that I might want to add to my components. My goal here is to add a button. So in the left navigation, we're going to go to Components and then Buttons and then Getting Started. Let's scroll down to the installation section right here. And you'll see the install command that you can copy by clicking this copy code button, and we can paste it inside the terminal or inside Visual Studio Code's terminal. In VS Code, I can just press Control backtick. That opens up the terminal. Let's clear it, and I'm going to paste in that new command here. npm install @progress / KendoReact buttons. Let's execute that. This will install the entire buttons package to our project. You can see that this package was added to our dependencies section automatically. All the KendoReact packages are namespaced with @progress / first, making them easy to find and group together. Now, if you don't have the project running already, you can say npm run dev to kick off the server. And there it is. Let's open this up in the browser so we can keep an eye on what's going on while we try this out. And here we are on the dashboard. At the top, we have 3 filter buttons, these right here. These are currently just HTML buttons, but we want to convert them to Kendo buttons. Let's find the component where these buttons live in the code. So back in the code, we're going to open up source, modules, dashboard, and then pages, and then this dashboard page TSX. This is where those buttons live. And here they are, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. By the way, when working with the dashboard, you'll find everything inside the modules dashboard folder, including the page that we were looking at, the models that are related to that, and the components. Everything that's related to the backlog will be in the backlog folder with a similar structure. Inside each one of these, there's a pages folder containing the top level components that talk to the services. These are known as smart components sometimes. And then there's the components folder. These are the presentation components, sometimes referred to as dumb components. And they only communicate with their parent components. Now, to replace these buttons, I want to make sure that I don't lose this handler. I want to also trigger the handler when I use the Kendo buttons. So let's not delete these buttons just yet. Let's hop back to the documentation and see what the next step is. Now we need to import the component. We'll use this statement to do the imports. So I'm going to copy that and go back to the code. And at the very top of our dashboard page component, where I have my import statements, I'm going to add that import statement for the buttons. VS Code is complaining right now because I've imported it, but I haven't used it yet. So we can just ignore that yellow underline. And by the way, whether you're using JavaScript or TypeScript, all Kendo components support TypeScript out of the box, so there's no need for special typings here. Now we can use that button component we imported and replace the HTML buttons. And that's just simply typing in button here. Also replace the ending tags. And let's do that for each one of our 3 buttons. We also do not need the type here because a KendoReact button knows that it's a button type. We can clean that up a little bit. It's not going to hurt leaving that in there, but might as well clean it up. Let's save this and check the result. Our buttons still look like HTML buttons. If I open up Developer Tools in Chrome here by pressing F12 and examine or inspect one of these buttons, that is in fact a Kendo button. But you see all these classes on it are not actually being applied. And that's because we didn't specify a theme yet for our project. To get that styling in there, we need to install the default theme. You only have to install the theme once. No need to do it for each component. If you scroll down on this Getting Started page under the buttons, you will see that in order to style the components, you'll need to install the theme. And here's the command for that. Let's copy that. Back in VS Code, I'm going to need to terminate the process right now so that I can install an npm package. So I'm going to press Ctrl-C in the terminal, and let's clear that a little bit and paste in the installation command to get that theme installed. If we check package.json now you'll see buttons and progress theme default. The next step is to activate the theme. And by activate, we just need to import the CSS file. We need to just have that statement somewhere in our code. And the best place to do that would be app.tsx. Find our application styling, which is app.css, and add the import for the boot and add the import for the default Kendo theme right before that. Save the file and start the dev server again with npm run dev. You're going to be using npm run dev quite a lot. Let's go back to our app and take a look. Now we get proper styling for our Kendo buttons. Back in the documentation under Overview, you'll see how to style buttons with properties like theme color, fill mode, and icon. Just take a look at the source here. There are variations like primary, outline, and link buttons, even buttons with icons. For example, let's check out this theme color primary. Let's go back here and our dashboard page. On this first button, I'm going to add theme color and then the primary string. Now we see that orange button styled as primary. By the way, depending on the theme selected, colors may differ. Ours is the default theme, which uses orange. As you're going through the course or using the documentation, if you go to any of the components, you can see the example here, and you can change the theme right over here. So we're using this orange main theme right now in our code, but all these other themes are available for us to use. You can also create a flat button by using something called fill mode and flat. Let's have a look at that. And there's a flat button, also primary, by the way. You can also add icons to your buttons, and we will do that later in the theming chapter. Now, sometimes we want to group our buttons together, and the button group component does exactly that. The good news, we already installed the whole buttons package, which does include the button group, chip, dropdown, and so on. From the docs, you can see how to use the button group component. all it does is wrap multiple buttons and allows toggle behavior. Let's do this in our app now. Instead of importing first, we're going to just type it in right here. Button group. Now I want you to be careful here because you'll see that there's actually two button groups in this project. One is coming from React strap and one is coming from @progress/KendoReact buttons. We want that second one. So let's click on that and let's wrap all our buttons with that. Do proper indentation and let's go to the top to make sure that the import is correct. And yes, both button and button group are coming from @progress/KendoReact buttons. Let's remove the flat fill mode and primary theme color for now and take a look at what we have. Now the buttons are visibly grouped together. And that's how easy it is to add a Kendo component like a button and a button group to your app and start using it right away. KendoReact is a UI library with over 120 components, and there are over 50 components that are free, like the button that we just used. The premium components, such as chart and scheduler, for example, require either a commercial license or an active trial license key. We're going to set up a license key for our project right now. Head over to the docs, and under Project Setup, you'll find the licensing section, and click on Set up your KendoReact license key. Scroll down a little bit. It'll give you some instructions. You can follow that, and then click on Go to the license keys page of your Telerik account. Now, I'm already logged in here, as you can see, so it'll take me right to it. But if you're not logged in, it'll ask you to log in first. Click on this handy Download License Key button, which will save the Telerik license text file. All you have to do is go to your project and open up the root folder, then simply drag that Telerik license text file into the root folder. Now you can see it here. Now you can also use an environmental variable to set up the license key if you want. I'm just going to use a text file and show you how to do it that way. The next step is to install the Progress Kendo licensing package by using this command right here. So I'm going to copy that. Let's head over to our project, Control backtick to open up the terminal. And we're going to terminate the running process right now because we're installing new packages. So Control C, and let's install that Progress Kendo licensing package. And finally, there's one more step. We just need to activate it. So we're going to run npx Kendo UI license activate. Let's paste that in. And you should get a message that says Telerik and Kendo UI license key found, and give you a success message like this. One thing to keep in mind is that this license key does expire at the end of your subscription period, whether it's a trial or commercial subscription. So you'll need to obtain a new license at that point. Also, take a look at the documentation. There's a few really important tips about licensing and license file management. One thing you want to watch out for is if you did use a text file like that, make sure you're excluded from your source code repositories so that you don't accidentally submit it there. And you want to keep that file safe in general. This documentation also goes into GitHub Actions, how to use it with that, how to use it on Vercel, Azure pipelines, and just different recipes on how you can set it up with those services.